So after studying Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7, we are finally able to dive in to Revelation 13. And with this understanding from Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7, we can actually understand what's going on here in this crazy chapter that everybody loves, everybody wants to know about. So, let's go. Let's do it. If you haven't watched Daniel 7 and 2, go watch them. You need to watch them. So in 13, verse 1, we immediately see the dragon that we saw one chapter earlier in Revelation chapter 12. And let's remind ourselves, this dragon is the devil. So this dragon standing on the sea, and a beast, giant beast, remember its kingdom, beasts are kingdoms, comes out of the sea. Let's talk about this beast in part 2. Part 2 of our study in Revelation 13. Go watch Daniel 7 and Daniel 2 if you have not already. But let's talk about this beast that we see in Revelation 13. And we can see immediately after studying Daniel chapter 7, it resembles not just the fourth beast, but all the beasts in Daniel chapter 7. So we read it has 10 horns, 7 heads, and 10 crowns, and on each head is a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and mouth like of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and throne and authority. So we see some resemblance of the leopard, the bear, the lion. There's also stuff like the 10 horns, like we saw in Daniel chapter 7. More on this beast in the next part. Part 3 of our study in Revelation 13. So we just saw this beast and how it resembles that beast and all of the beasts from Daniel chapter 7. So let's talk about the dragon and his involvement with this beast. We already read that the dragon gave the beast his power, throne, and authority. So this dragon, which is the devil is giving his authority to the beast. The beast is the representative on earth for the devil. This kingdom is demonic and from the devil. We read in verse 3, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound was healed, and the whole world was filled with wonder and followed that beast. People worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshipped the beast and asked, who is like the beast, who can wage war against it? So they think this beast is their savior. Part 4 of our study with this crazy beast in Revelation chapter 13. So we just read, the devil gives his authority to this beast, which is a kingdom, and this beast represents that from Daniel chapter 7. So let's read on in verse 5 about what the beast is going to be doing. We read the beast is given a mouth and utter proud words and blasphemies, and to exercise its authority for 42 months, which is 3.5 years. 3.5 years. It's come up a little bit. It's going to come up some more. We'll talk about it later. And it opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And they were given authority over every tribe, nation, language, people. Everybody. Everybody's going to worship this beast. Part 5 of our study in Revelation chapter 13. So we just read about this beast. Authority from the devil, hates Christians, blasphemes God. Whoa, that's bad news for us, right? It's this one world empire we talked about. So the one world empire is going to be against us and against Christians. That's scary. But we got to remember, we're probably going to be gone by that time. Rapture and stuff. But we read that this calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on part of God's people. And in the second half of the chapter, we read about a second beast, who's later referred to in the book of Revelation as the false prophet. And it's this military authority that goes along with this political authority that is the first beast out of the sea. So let's talk about it more in the next one. Part 6 of Revelation chapter 13. So we just talked about the first beast, the political big guy authority that is the one world government. And in the second half, we read about the beast of the earth, And so the earth is the opposite of the sea, so it's coming out of a small number of people, small movement, small city, whatever you have it. And we read that this is really the big authority, the big power behind the one world kingdom. This is likely the military or economic or both power of the one world government. And it sets up a sign, an image that everybody in the world must worship. And that sign is of the first beast. And if they don't, they're going to be killed. That is known as the mark of the beast. Let's talk about that more next. The next part 7 of our study in Revelation 13. So we just talked about, in the last part, this second beast, the beast out of the earth, and how it's the military or economic authority that backs the political authority that we saw in the first half of the chapter. And it sets up this image, the mark of the beast. Everybody on the earth, everybody, I mean everybody, all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or foreheads. Everybody's got to take it. If they don't, they're going to be killed. And without it, they can't buy or sell. So let's talk about how this is not really literal. It is a mark, yeah, but this mark of the beast could literally be anything. So let's talk about the imagery behind the mark of the beast next. Here in part 8 of our study in Revelation chapter 13, let's talk about imagery. Imagery about the mark of the beast. There's 2 big imagery things I want to talk about. We read in verse 16 that the mark of the beast has to go on your right hand or your forehead. And that you can't buy and sell without it. So there's a lot of things that this could mean. And it's kind of vague, and a lot of imagery can definitely go along with it. So with this right hand and forehead thing, we can look back in the Old Testament. Look at something called the Shema. It's this prayer of loyalty to God from the Jewish people. And it's saying, I will do things with actions, right hand, and thoughts, forehead. So it's devoting your actions and thoughts to the beast and the government. Part 9 of Revelation chapter 13. We just talked about the first part of imagery with the mark of the beast. Let's talk about number 2. Can't buy or sell without it. So this could mean a lot of things. It could mean that the mark of the beast is a one world currency, some kind of credit card, maybe online banking system maybe, that if you don't take this one world currency and use it, you can't buy or sell. It makes sense, but we can't really be sure about it. Another proposal to what this mark of the beast could be is that it's Sunday law, that you have to worship and take a holy day on Sunday, which it's a stretch. It goes along with the whole Roman thing and how back in the 300s AD, Roman Empire enforced Sunday law by Constantinople, but Christians don't keep the Sabbath. Part 10 of Revelation chapter 13 in our study through this crazy chapter. So let's talk about now who these 2 beasts are. I don't know. You can't know for sure until it happens. But we can make some guesstimations. Many people think all this evidence, it's really very boldly pointing to the Roman Catholic papacy that rose up out of the Byzantine Empire and has done a bunch of stuff in the last 1500 years, that's the first beast. It makes sense. Rome was a very populous city before the Roman Empire, so it fits with it coming out of the sea. And many think that second, this false prophet is the U.S. coming out of the earth, small population. The colonies were very small population and started small. So to wrap up this study thingy in Revelation 13, let's talk about the last little itty bitty chunk at the end. It says it calls for wisdom, calls for insight to calculate the number of the beast. Number of a man, and that number is 666. That's where you get this devil being tied to 666 and stuff, like the world says. And what does this mean? It takes wisdom. You gotta calculate and stuff. It's tough. In Hebrew letters, the alphabet, they're also numbers. When you put in Nero Caesar, and there's some other versions and fancy stuff, I don't speak Hebrew, but there's some stuff and it punches out 666. So Nero has to do with 666. Who is Nero? A giant persecutor of Christians. I'll leave you with that.